Welcome. We are on night five, six, six. I don't know what night it is, but we were left off in part of the chapter last night where we left off. The Singletons had been captured. They were taken to Scrape's lab and dropped off by the Hellhounds. And here we go. It wasn't long, maybe an hour, before the alarms began to blare, real alarms, not drills. Archie had a feeling the next chapter would be written in blood, and probably their own. "Hounds, Alpha to the garage now!" the general's voice coming across the PA. Archie picked Amber up and flew towards the garage at high speed, arriving moments later. Hawk and Sita are there waiting for something or someone. The Singletons emerged from the hallway. The Singletons and Earlys are all there, huddled and defensive. Mary's shirt is still sparking, her hands looking like a Tesla coil. Logan, the youngest boy, is pressed against the wall, rocking and humming, but everything around him, debris, chunks of plex, even broken steel bolts, float 6 inches off the floor, orbiting him like moons. They exit the door and step down to the makeshift motor pool. Matt Singleton stands in front of the group, barehanded. There's blood on his face, neck, and down his arm, but his stance is a feint. He's wobbly and his eyes are glassy. He doesn't look like a killer. He looks like someone who's already made his peace. A line of Humvees stood ready for deployment, some with solar arrays for powering encampments for longer assaults, some with trailers full of supplies. Singleton saw them and began to move towards them cautiously. The smoke from the building was billowing out into the garage, affecting visibility. In the smoke, Sita, General Hawk, and Major Archie Lee and Amber stood between the Singletons and the vehicles. Hawk stepped forward, his face pinched with glee. "Did you really think you could just walk out?" The wife said nothing, moving to put herself between Hawk and her children. Hawk gestured to the violet-eyed woman. "Sita said you'd try this. She's never wrong." Hawk smiled, broad and thin as a razor. "All I need is one of you to cooperate. The rest are expendable." Brendan moved to step forward, but Diane blocked him with an arm. "Don't," she whispered. "He'll just kill us all." Then Amber raised her hand, and instantly the temperature dropped. The air crystallized, every molecule vibrating with sudden impossible cold. Hawk's voice was lazy. "Last chance. Give up the old man, and we'll let the rest of you run." Matt tried to stay standing, but his legs wouldn't hold. He fell to his knees, the last of the blood from his arm freezing in little black circles as it hit the ground. "No, you'll never let us go," Diane said. Hawk shrugged. "You're right," he said, almost kindly. "But at least I asked." Amber remembered Sita's warning, but flicked her wrist anyway. A jagged spear of frost shot across the gap, only to shatter midair as lightning crackled through it, vaporizing the ice into a blinding mist. She thrust both hands forward, launching a massive glacial boulder, but again blue-white electricity arced through the darkness, obliterating it with a thunderous crack. The collision is instant, a slap of blue-white lightning against a sheet of perfect ice. For a moment, the garage glows magnesium bright, and everyone in it is backlit as ghosts. Amber arms up and freezing, teeth clenched against the pane, Mary Early screaming as the current arcs through her own wrists. The younger woman stepped forward, electricity crackling between her fingertips. The air around her shimmered with heat as she positioned herself between the ice woman and her family. "Not today, bitch. Not ever again," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. Amber's eyes narrowed to glacial slits. She advanced with predatory grace, her movements a blur of feints that left Mary struggling to track her. They are still locked in it, neither giving ground. The ice and the electricity have fused, coating the whole area in a fog so thick Archie can barely see. Then it happens. Mary missed her chance, and Amber pushes her power into her. When the blast came, a howling vortex of crystalline death. Mary had no time to counter. Frost consumed her in an eye blink, transforming her living flesh to icy veneer, her expression forever captured in that terrible moment of recognition too late. The rest of the world narrows to this. The afterimage burned on every retina. Was this what Sita meant? Archie hears Sam scream, "Mary!" He hears the otherworldly screams of the family. Then it happens. Matt Singleton changed, and the rest of the world slowed as he crossed the distance between Amber and himself, his eyes glowing gold. Archie can't hear what she says to him, but then his hand grabs Amber's wrist, and everything stops as they are lifted off the ground, as a power thrums between them. Amber's frosted visage begins to melt. She falls to the ground as he touches back to the floor of the garage. His eyes return to normal, and as he slumps forward, Diane and Brendan grab him, with Logan trailing behind them, carrying his tablet, smiling as they make a run to the nearest Humvee. The jumpers inside the motor pool are hit with an unseen concussion wave that stops them in their tracks. The world goes black. The fuel depot erupts next, a thunderous boom that shakes the concrete beneath them. A second concussion wave knocks the air from the lungs as burning debris rains down, transforming the garage into a hellscape of smoke and dancing shadows where no one can see more than a foot ahead. When sight returns, Sita, Hawk, Archie, Bond are on the floor, ears ringing. Amber isn't moving, frost retreating from the floor like a living thing. The Singletons are gone, side of the garage blown open and walls shredded by the crossfire of Powers and fuel explosion. Bond is swearing in a language that might be Korean, might be made up. Archie claws to his knees, head swimming. All up and down the corridors, prisoners are pouring from the campus. Archie looks for Amber, still on the ground, not moving. Archie's body went rigid, his breath caught in his throat. Archie barrels in. Enough! He yells. As he runs to her, he notices Sam Early cradling the face of his frozen wife, his grief mirroring Archie's. Archie looks at Amber. We have to stop. He rushes to check on her, feeling for her pulse. It's there, steady and slow. Then recognition hit him like a physical blow. Amber, dropping to his knees beside the blue-tinged woman whose form had once commanded winter itself, and was now changing from blue to pink as the warmth returned. In that moment, he's lost in thought. He sits placing her head in his lap. Archie looks back down the ruined corridor. The base is on full meltdown. Hawk's men in retreat. Scrape's lab, probably a smoking crater. He could chase the family. He could run with Amber. He sits on the floor, Amber's head in his lap, pulls the iceberg from his pocket. It's barely a sliver now, but it's real. He looks across the area and sees Mary's husband kissing her frozen head, then getting up and running. Then a voice comes to his mind that is far away. You have to let us go, Archie. He looks up and sees the Humvee break down the gates, Singleton's wife looking at him through the side mirrors. Archie stays in his place, rooted in that moment. He wants them to get away for once. Since this began, he chose not to do the one thing no one predicted. Nothing. After the explosion and escape, the compound was in chaos, with the majority of the assault teams en route back to the base. The patchwork crew were in chaos. The prisoner cells were damaged. They were running free from the base. They had captured folks from the Honorable Way, Lightbringers, and even a handful of Liberator goons. Some were already fighting each other. Some were just trying to disappear into the confusion. Alita and Tiant crash in from the far end, trailing a string of half-stunned MPs. There's prisoners headed for the perimeter, Alita shouts, not bothering to explain who. Archie just sat there in silence. Maze, status, Alita yells into her comm, but there's only static. Maze is already on the move, trying to regain control of their camp. Maze moves fast, leaving a wake of blood and gunmetal as she vaults the ruined wall and into the maze of back corridors, looking to help reestablish order where she could. Archie is out. Bond is now limping. Alita and Tiant fanned out as flankers, trying anything they could to get this under control. The whole base is a riot of alarms. The lights flashed from the red strobe, the blue strobe, then the sickly yellow strobe that means total breach, not just a lockdown. The hell jumpers are in chaos, and it all started because someone rang a bell, and they all drooled like dogs at the thought they could control what Archie just witnessed. For all their precision drills and bravado, a small family of 6 committed people showed them how fragile their reality is. The general stood at the fence, barking orders to the MPs, trying in vain to establish order. Sita walked past Archie, still on the ground, and whispered in his ear, "The hunt has just begun, Archie, and you have no idea how important you are to the future." Archie sat there, haunted by those words. He wasn't special. He wasn't even the right man anymore. Only thing he knew for certain, the Singletons were running for their lives, and at some point, he was going to have to pick a side. Chapter 9, Confrontation on the Plains. For 4 months, Major Archie Lee had tracked the Singleton family with nothing to show for it. Their initial capture had been so effortless that he expected to drag them back within days of their escape. Yet here he was, still empty handed, while they continued to evade his best efforts. He'd secretly hoped Hawk might eventually abandon the pursuit, but instead his commander had grown even more sadistic, something Lee hadn't thought possible. Now the hellhounds were being positioned to fail again on this fox hunt, and he had been summoned by Sita. And after Hawk's punishment this morning, he wasn't of a mind to avoid her forever, though part of him wanted to. He hesitated at her door, hand trembling slightly before he forced it steady and stepped inside. Her words in the motor pool echoing in his thoughts, the singleton's escape had changed everything. Sometimes he longed for his old life, the lazy, unmotivated, meaningless existence. Yet he couldn't deny the rush of commanding men, of watching enemies cower. He'd built this power, earned this influence, hadn't he? But standing before Sita, about to have his future dictate to him like a child receiving orders, Archie felt a familiar hollowness spreading beneath his ribs. Was he truly in control of anything? Or just another pawn being moved across the board by hands more powerful than his own? Sunlight filtered through the high arched windows, dust motes dancing in the flickering beams. Seer knelt before a brass brazier, pale fingers tracing runes in the smoky air. Sita's eyes never left the brazier as she addressed him. Major Lee, I require your particular talents. The singletons remained perceptible to me, yet their precise whereabouts, she traced another rune in the smoke, frustration evident in the sharp movements of her wrist, continues to be a source of frustration. It's been 4 months of chasing our tails, Sita, 4 months of being several steps behind. We found them in 6 weeks last time. Why is this taking so long? Archie asked, letting frustration be evident. She lifted her gaze to amethyst irises beneath strands of silver gray hair. Though her features were delicate, a strange unease rippled through Major Lee as he met her stare. I see you and Evans linked to them, Major, though the when and where remains a blur. By the pasture grass and wooden fence, they appear to be on a farm. Your lives are linked as the why. Your lives are linked. The why now is less important than the why you. His thoughts drifted towards Amber, the woman he had grown to love over the last few months, her icy demeanor slowly shifting to something soft and welcoming. His life was changing quickly, and he was not good at handling rapid changes. Her interaction with Singleton had stripped her of her powers. He blamed Hawk for the entire mess. The general's overconfidence and blind faith in the seers had worn Archie's patience to breaking. What made the Singleton so damn special? Nothing in the visions he'd witnessed had convinced him that one man, any man, could be worth this relentless pursuit, this constant failure, this endless bloodshed. That power he had was a spectacle, but all this for one man seemed so absurd to him. She bent to return the ancient tome on the marble pedestal, but not before warning. And Major, spare the general your company until after this mission. You're apt to say and do things you'll regret. Her finger tapped a rune chart. Rage emanates from you like heat off embers. Aim that fire at your task. Lee's jaw clenched as the shivers spiraled down his spine. He loathed the seer's riddles, yet her counsel rang true. Before he could speak, her voice snapped like a whip. Step to your left, now! With a thunderous crack, the west wall exploded inward. Three jagged chunks of cinder block ricocheted past Lee's head, spraying dust and sparks. He strode toward the smoldering breach, fury igniting in his chest. Through swirling smoke, he glimpsed two wiry preteens ducking behind the crumbling barracks. Motherless punks, he muttered. The boys were revenants, which acted as the lightly powered labor force of the Helljumpers. They had been emboldened since the Singleton's escape. Turning back to the seer, he demanded, which of my men offers the best chance of success? She closed her eyes, lips parting in silent invocation. Moments later, she rattled names as if from a scroll. Barnes, Jones, Ortega, Smith, Appleton, and Mays. Stop that scowl. You may despise Mays, but she's crucial to this operation. Lee's expression tightened. Captain Mays, unyielding, mercurial, but after the mission had gone foobar, she wanted nothing to do with him. Swallowing his distaste, he tapped his earpiece. Corporal, patch me through to Captain Mays. In your ear, sir, crackled the reply. A rasping growl answered, Lee, what do you want? Maze's tone dripped with mockery and command. Seer says we're bound together. I'm leading the hounds today. No mission without you. You in or out? He inhaled steadily. I'll come, but I answer to no one. Comprende? Partners then, she purred. Double cross me, bail on me again, and I'll shoot you where you stand. Out. As he strode past the seer, she whispered over her shoulder, Watch your back, Major. At that instant, a chunk of ceiling tile plummeted, smashing against his shoulder. He rubbed the sting. Not quite the betrayal I meant, she quipped. Her eyes flicked briefly towards the lens hidden in the corner molding, a calculated hesitation in her movements. Had her performance convinced whoever watched from the other side of the glass eye? Sita watched him leave, her fingers trembling slightly as she extinguishes the candle. Your future lies with him, Archie, she thinks, whether either of us likes it or not. The smoke curls upward, and for a moment she sees another path. One where she warns him of everything, where she betrays her masters, where she saves them both. But the vision dissolves like smoke itself. He bowed sarcastically. Thanks for the heads up. Swinging open the iron door, he stepped into the corridor. His calm crackled. Major, hellhounds are assembled, waiting your orders. Excellent, Lee replied. He descended the stairwell, boots echoing against metal, emerging into the courtyard. He rose above the ground and hovered before two sentries by the seer's door. Be grateful I don't have to have you two drawn and quartered for this. Find those boys who wrecked the seer's quarters, he ordered. They ran up three buildings, then left towards the residences. Treat them as combatants until caught. Then give them 10 lashes in public and have someone repair the chamber immediately. Yes, sir, the first guard saluted. This mission was already going sideways. They haven't even left the base. This mission was already going sideways, and they hadn't even left the base. He began to wonder if it was even worth it. The after effects of simply having him here disrupted everything they had built. Archie's mind churned with contradictions as he rounded the corner by the medical building. The capture of the Singletons, their escape, Sita's cryptic warning, and all of it tangled with that haunting image of the iceberg and what it had cost Amber. Then he saw her standing in the courtyard. His chest tightened with both longing and dread as he descended to the ground. When Amber spotted him, her face lit up. She ran to him, arms outstretched, and for one dangerous second he wanted nothing more than to hold her. Instead, he caught her wrists. Not here, he hissed, scanning the perimeter. His fingers lingered on her skin a moment too long before dropping away. No one's looking, she whispered, her smile both defiant and vulnerable, and honestly, I'm past caring. I'm pregnant, she breathed against his ear. The words hit him like shrapnel. Part of him surged with primitive pride, while another part recoiled in horror. How? His voice cracked. It's not. He remembered their desperate coupling after the Singletons escaped, two broken people clinging to each other in the dark. Is it mine? The question tasted like ash. Yes, it's yours, dumbass. She guided his reluctant hand to her belly. I miss my powers, but this changes everything. You need to leave, he said, even his palm pressed gently against her. My child can't be born in this hellscape. He wasn't sure if he was protecting her or pushing her away. Archie's voice dropped to a harsh whisper. You need to run. Today. I don't. He paused, jaw working. I can't scrape anywhere near our baby. The word "our" caught in his throat like a fishbone. Our baby, huh? Her smile bloomed, but her eyes searched his face for something he couldn't give her. I'm leaving on a mission to capture the Singletons, he said, already mentally mapping routes away from her. We tracked their position, and they're on foot now, limited search radius. His hand reached over for his shoulder, then dropped away. When I go, you should too. Take a truck, find the honorable way outpost. He looked over her head toward the command center where his duty waited. They'll protect you, even after what we've done for them. Done to them. He swallowed. It's better than here. Better than me. She grabbed his wrist, her nails digging crescents into his flesh. I'm leaving, she hissed, eyes wild. Sita already warned me. Remember the locked box? It's open now. It showed me what they'll do if I don't. Her voice cracked. But I had to see you one last time. She pressed her forehead against his, breath hot against his face. We will be together again. Sita's vision swore it. But first you'll face hell itself, and every choice you make determines whether our child lives or dies. She slammed her palm against his chest. Remember what you're really fighting for, Archie. It's not this godforsaken compound. It's us. Her final declaration slammed into Archie's consciousness with devastating force. The mission parameters still existed in his mind, but suddenly the certainty behind them had fractured, leaving him adrift between duty and this new, terrifying possibility. As she vanished towards the barracks, a cold vice clamped around his chest. Compound walls, once his fortress, suddenly felt like a trap closing around them both. Fuck, he muttered as he walked toward the assembly area. He shook his head, prepping he shook his head, prepping his head for the mission at hand. Lee angled himself toward the compound's hard the gymnasium. With a graceful arc, he propelled down the corridor until the massive double doors towered before him. Landing with a muted thud, he yanked them open. Inside, as the lieutenant snapped to a crisp salute, "Tin Hut!" The Hellhounds, his elite tracking unit, snapped to attention. Lee allowed them to relax. Before him stood his team, Lieutenant Tiant Barnes, with his signature burn scrawl crawling up from his neck, Bon Jones, fingers drumming restlessly against his thigh holster, Alito Ortega, whose dark eyes missed nothing, and John Smith, silent as always, the only one who never screamed during nightmares. They'd crawled through hell together and emerged as something closer than blood, a family forged in fire. Archie reached for the communicator clipped to his tactical vest, its worn surface smooth from years of use. Corporal, notify Captain Appleton his services are required. Tell him I need the Blackhawk prepped and ready in 20. His voice echoed against the gymnasium's steel rafters. Copy that, Major. The corporal's tinny voice replied. Shane Appleton, with his scarred hands and thousand-year stare, could pilot a chopper through a tornado while blindfolded. The man had survived 3 crashes and walked away from each one. This mission demanded nothing less than his supernatural instincts at the console. Archie's boots squeaked against the polished floor as he paced before his team, the fluorescent lights casting harsh shadows across their faces. As he passed Alita, the reinforced door behind him crashed open, metal handling denting the concrete wall. What up, bitches? Mommy's home! Maze's voice sliced through the room as she strutted in combat boots, leaving muddy prints on the floor. Her hair buzzed on one side, wild curls on the other, framed a face marked by a jagged scar running from temple jaw. Thank you for your help, Maze, Archie replied, each syllable dripping with venom. Then he spotted her, Sita, slipping in behind Maze like a shadow. Her silver gray hair hung impossibly straight around the face too young for such coloring. Those unsettling lavender eyes seemed to look through him rather than at him. I'm coming to ensure you don't mess up again. Besides, my place seems to have developed a need for renovation, she announced, her voice soft yet carrying to every corner of the room. Future blurs around them, but I can guide you by tracking the blank spaces and the absences where vision should be. Why are you really here, Sita? Archie demanded, already knowing the truth would remain elusive. Her lips curved into a smile that never reached those eerie eyes. For fun, she replied, fingers tracing invisible patterns in the air between them. Archie Lee could feel Sita's gaze boring into his skull like twin drills, those unsettling violet irises tracking every movement from across the room. Cold pressure built at his temples, the telltale signature of her powers probing him, delicate as a spider's legs skittering across the surface of his mind. The woman didn't just see the future. She could reach inside your head and rearrange the furniture, leaving you questioning your own memories and motives. Her loyalty shifted like quicksilver, ultimately flowing back to herself when the tide turned. Archie's jaw clenched as he observed Sita's slender fingers making continue making invisible patterns. She grabbed his communicator and tapped a button on the map and dropped a pin outside of Wichita, Kansas. Was she here to help or harm? The question gnawed at his gut like acid. He'd seen firsthand what happened to those who underestimated her. Minds left fractured, memories corrupted beyond repair. Archie studied the map and looked up at Sita's violet eyes. Sita shrugged and walked away. Listen up, he barked, unfolding a weathered topographical map across the metal table. We got a 30 square mile search parameter from their last known location. I'm sending this pin Sita just dropped on my comm. Terror reigns mostly scrubland with these rocky outcroppings to the north. His fingers traced a jagged line. We'll drop John Bond at the pinned location. With their tracking abilities, we should be able to pick up the trail within an hour. The general wants the singletons in hand within 24 hours. No excuses, no failures. He scanned the hardened faces of his hellhounds, met with only 1,000-yard stares of soldiers who had seen too much. Maze, you clear on this plan? Crystal, she drawled, spinning a combat knife between her fingers. Sita's arm shot up suddenly, and waving with exaggerated enthusiasm, her lavender eyes gleaming with mischief like a student desperate to share a secret that unraveled the entire lesson. Archie's jaw tightened, a muscle twitching beneath the 3-day stubble. It shadowed his face. He exhaled slowly through his nostrils, eyes narrowing to slits as he regarded the silver-haired woman with a hand thrust skyward like an eager schoolgirl. Yes, Sita. The words scraped from his throat, rough as sandpaper. Sandpaper. Blah, 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 blah. Her lavender eyes sparked with malicious delight as she lowered her arm, head tilting to one side like a predatory bird. Is there going to be an in-flight movie? She quipped, her voice musical and light, completely at odds with the tension crackling through the room. Archie's eyes narrowed to slits. Yeah, it's called Silence is Golden, he growled, his voice dripping an octave. Limited engagements. Starts right now. Party pooper, she said under her breath. They boarded the helo, the rotors already spinning, kicking up clouds of dust and debris across the landing field that stung exposed skin and forced them to squint against the assault. The vibration of the metal floor thrummed through Archie's combat boots as he strapped himself in, the web seating cracking under his weight. Captain, he shouted over the engine's roar, we're headed towards Wichita. Hunting season's open. His eyes flicked to Sita, who lounged against the interior hull as if it were a luxury couch. If you would help the captain with the location. Sita's lavender eyes glinted in the harsh light flittering through the dust-streaked windows. Sure thing, boss, she replied, giving a two-finger salute with exaggerated precision. Her slender fingers pressed mockingly against her temple like some demented Boy Scout. They flew in silence, unsure of what awaited them somewhere outside Wichita, Kansas. Matt Singleton still hadn't processed the idea that they were being hunted. 4 months of running, and he still couldn't decide if he was protecting his family or dragging them toward their doom. He was lost in thought, reminiscing about his daughter Mary when she was little and having to watch Barbie and Bratz movies. He'd given her away at her wedding with pride swelling in his chest, but now he wondered if that mattered anymore. There hadn't been time to grieve since the escape. The slinking from house to house, zigzagging across Kansas, occupied all his mental bandwidth. It had been 4 months of caution, 4 months of hiding. But after the close call at the last house, they moved on again. They needed to set perimeter traps, but they needed to sleep more. 4 months of zigzagging across Kansas had hollowed them all out. He wanted to stop running. He wanted to run faster. He wanted impossible things. Matt was lost in his anxious thoughts when it happened. The TV screen died with a violent hiss, the Blu-ray player's final gasp as the solar generator battery flatlined, and the gas generator was just as useless as fuel is hard to come by these days. 2 days of quiet, 2 days of peace since the last close call. That's all they'd gotten in this house. Logan opened his eyes and a whimper pierced the silence, his forehead pressed hard against Matt's knee, body trembling as his telekinesis erupted, the coffee mug rocketing off the table and exploding against the wall like a grenade. Hey, hey! Logan's Matt sees Logan's face between his palms. Sorry, Stinky, the batteries are dead. Matt stood to go retrieve the fully charged tablet from his pack. As he approached the countertop, Diane's voice slashed through his skull. They're here! The hell jumpers always hunting, never stopping. Bubba leapt to his feet, risking a glance out the covered curtain window. Hand lighting up like blue between his fingers. I can hear a chopper. It's close. Matt's insides liquefied. Bags! Now! Logan's eyes widened, pupils blown. The generator wrenched off the floor, cables whipping into the duffel with violent precision. Too fucking late. The wall disintegrated. Wooden shrapnel tore through the air as Major Lee materialized from the dust clouds, his boots pulverizing glass beneath him. A seer from the garage loomed behind him, her purple eyes glowing radioactive, her smile splitting her face like a wound. Matthew Singleton? Lee's voice dropped venom. General Hawk sends his regards. Don't make this hard. Surrender. Bubba's plasma shield erupted blue-white. Sita's fingers snapped forward. Sita, unlike the other seers, had a way to push her powers into others. It messed with her head temporarily. The shield collapsed as Brendan lost his concentration. Logan's scream shattered the air like breaking glass. His telekinetic blast, a concussive wave of invisible force, caught Maze, Alita, and Tiant square in their chest, hurling them backwards through the drywall in an explosion of white dust and splintered 2x4s. Outside, Bond and Smith had just set their combat boots on the warped porch steps when the tangle of flailing limbs and technical gear slammed into them freight train speed. All five soldiers tumbled down the overgrown front yard in a chaotic mass of twisted limbs, guttural curses, and the metallic clatter of dislodged weapons skittering across the dirt. Sita's laugh cut short. Cute! Her fingers twitched halfway through the motion, hesitating. These were someone's children, someone's husband. Her mind flashed to her own sister's face, then to General Hawk's cold eyes, watching her every move through the body cams. She completed the gesture with a grimace that might have been mistaken for pleasure, her lavender eyes deliberately not meeting Logan's as they rolled back in his skull. Logan crashed to the floor, a body convulsing violently, foam bubbling from his lips. Matt lunged with a primal roar, all animal instinct, no technique. Lee's hand shot out like a striking cobra, fingers digging deep into Matt's windpipe. That cartilage creaked. Black spots exploded across Matt's vision as his lungs screamed for oxygen. Watch, the Major hissed, his breath hot and wet against Matt's ear, spittle flecking Matt's cheek. This is the price for running. Sita's warnings ricocheted through his skull as he surveyed his incapacitated soldiers. Rage boiled beneath his skin, threatening to erupt. Then, like a lifeline in chaos, Archie's mind reached for Amber, her gentle smile, the other joy she had on her face before they left for the mission. His anxiety that she got away with his unborn child intact and safe. Diane's telepathic roar detonated inside everyone's brain. Enough! Reality froze, every muscle, every thought suspended in Diane's psychic grip. Brendan, halfway to the exposed generator wires, paralyzed mid-lunge. Matt dangling, feet shifting in the vortex uselessly, Lee's fingers digging purple bruises into his throat. Logan's face contorted in agony, eyes rolling back. Diane stood like a statue carved from ice, power radiating from her invisible waist. Put him down now. Lee's fingers sprang open. Matt crashed to the floor, gasping. Move! Lee and Sita stumbled backwards and sideways like puppets with severed strings. The helicopter rotor screamed closer, wind howling through the shattered walls, debris swirling like a cyclone. Diane released Brendan and Logan and Matt with a thought. Bags, we're leaving, she commanded directly into Brendan's cerebral cortex. Brendan vanished, reappeared with all four backpacks and Logan's communication tablet, thrusting it at Logan as he sprinted past. Brendan hauled his father up from the floor as Logan bolted forward, latching onto Matt's hand with white-knuckle desperation. Diane snatched the backpack, her movements sharp as broken glass, and practically rammed it onto Matt's shoulders before securing Logan's. She stalked toward Major Lee, her eyes burning with cold fire. You will forget about finding us, she hissed, each word a psychic blade. Your team will wake in ditches miles apart, your precious helicopter wreckage, and when Hawk demands answers, her voice dropped to a venomous whisper, you'll beg him to abandon this hunt, because next time, I won't leave enough of your base for the vultures to pick at. But I'm going to be generous. She moved through the hell jumpers like death itself, ripping memories from their minds, leaving them hollow-eyed and slack-jawed. Sita tried to fight the probes, the mental daggers, but she just couldn't, and she backed away. You're so used to seeing everyone else's future. Let's see what happens when I make you see your own. Diane commanded, driving the thought deep into the woman's cerebral cortex. Then Sita's spine arched impossibly backward as her own ability turned inward, her scream shattering the air like breaking bone. She collapsed, convulsing violently against the floorboards. Don't fuck with my boys. Each word punctuated by a psychic pulse, command to walk away that made the air shimmer. Sita lay there, tears streaming down her face, her violet eyes seeking absolution that wasn't coming. She paused at Major Lee, her smile terrifying. I'm leaving you a gift. Use it wisely, Archie. Your life will depend on it. Now it's time for you to fly away. Something invisible passed between them that made him gasp. Despite having no control over his limbs, he attempted to unsuccessfully clutch his temples. Archie then rose off the ground and exited the house and shot to the sky with a boom of him breaking the sound barrier audible above the sound of the rotors. Grab everything, she ordered her family, her voice electric with adrenaline. We're going to Arizona, and we are finding my boys. They quickly stripped the soldiers of tactical gears, weapons, and tech they left. They left the rations, canteens, and their comms because Diane was sure they had tracking beacons. The family moved with military precision toward the waiting helicopter. She reached out across the field and seized the mind of the pilot, Captain Appleton, just as he was trying to lift off. Land now, she commanded. Black Hawk lurched, then landed softly on the ground. Singletons reached the side doors, the rotors stirring all the loose dirt into the air. Matt grabbed the latch, pulled the door, popped open, and slid on its rollers. He stayed there, helping his children and wife into the cabinet as the rotors roared overhead. He slammed the door shut, hitting the internal latches to seal the cabinet. As they lifted off, flames erupted beneath them, consuming their temporary shelter. Diane was looking back at the house, her eyes reflected the inferno. For her family, she would burn the world. The helicopter lifted from the scorched earth with a shuddering groan, its wheels scraping embers scattered across the field. As it banged northwest, its metal skin vibrated like a dying jackhammer, the rotor slicing through the sky, thick with acrid smoke. Matt's knuckles blanched white around Logan's small hand. The boy's calm gaze remained fixed on the smoldering ruin below, where the crackling orange tongues licked the night air and cast flickering shadows across his cheek. We're going to get my boys now. Diane's voice slithered into Matt's brain, icy and unyielding. We're going west, Captain, Diane commanded. Appleton, who was now helpless in her to Appleton, who was now helpless in her thrall. Brendan leaned forward, his fingertips dancing heat as they clinched the pilot's headrest. West, where the hell even is that taking us? Helljumpers own half the. A shrill warning light erupted on the dashboard. The pilot, Captain Appleton, with haunted eyes, stayed rigid in his seat, sweat sliding down his brow in slow rivulets. Logan's shoulder twitched. The helicopter yawed violently. Trees, fire, and sky blurred past the window in a disorienting spin. Shit! Matt voice cut through the roar as he yanked at the overhead strap. The cabin pitched sideways, metal groaning under the strain. For an instant, he braced for a free fall. Then Diane's calm, razor-sharp command cut through the chaos. Sit down. Level off. Pilot's bodies jerked like a puppet on a snapped strings. The chopper leveled out. Sudden stillness was almost deafening. Jesus, Steve, warn a guy, Brendan hissed, exhaling a frustrated hiss through his clenched teeth. Diane's gaze never wavered. Next time, I'll let you crash. See how you like that warning. Matt's lips twitched. In a near smile before reality bit back. Logan's small fingers dug into his arm, white knuckle pressure. The boy tapped silently. Then the small electronic voice shrills. Danger. Below them, the burning house detonated in a thunderous blast, a molten globe of fire that shoved the helicopter sideways with bone-rattling force. Through the haze of the heat, flying ash, Matt saw helljumpers thrown flat by concussion wave. One by one, they staggered to their feet, abandoning any pursuit and scattering in every direction except west. Diane's sharp eyes swept the cabin. Matt's throat bore fresh bruises and a long, raw abrasion across his scalp. The boys sported minor cuts etched by flying debris. Matt forced a raspy grin. You got a couple cuts and scrapes, but bonus points for Dad. Your shirt ripped in all the right places. Really, Dad? Gross. Brendan groaned from his seat. Flushing slightly, Diane retrieved her backpack, and the worn canvas creaking as she fished out a clean shirt. She shrugged out of the torn fabric and pulled on the fresh one, the tight cotton settling over her shoulders in stark contrast to the chopper's grime. Matt blinked at her, half amused, half exasperated. Diane zipped her pack closed. Now that I don't have all your dirty thoughts clogging my mind, let's set a course for Arizona. She peeled back an outer flap, unfolded an ancient creased atlas, and laid it across her lap as the helicopter banks once more towards the southwest. Inside the craft rattled with each of the gust of smoky wind. Diane's jaw tightened as she calculated fuel and distance, determined to squeeze every last drop from the tank. Matt rummaged in his pack and produced a fully charged tablet. For the ride, he told Logan, unlocking the screen. The boy's face brightened. He tapped open the movie folder and began scrolling through thumbnails of animated worlds and distant galaxies. You know screen time is bad for their health, Diane said dryly, one eyebrow arcing above her map. Maybe for them, Matt murmured, eyes drifting back to the inferno that had been their temporary base. Their temporary home, the glow still visible through the smoky farmhouse window. Singletons had been on the run for so long, now they had an advantage for the first time in this game of cat and mouse. Their lead might evaporate in hours, maybe minutes, but Diane's resolve burned hotter than the inferno behind them. Anyone standing between her and her sons would learn what it meant to face a mother who had already lost too much in this broken world. The Singletons rode in that chopper across Kansas, seeing farm after farm as they traveled west, then southwest through the Oklahoma Panhandle. The drone of the rotors interspersed with music and voices coming from Logan watching movies on the tablet Matt had given him. The weather cooperated for once. They crossed New Mexico and the landscape changed to tableaus of rocks and valleys. They crossed into Arizona, headed towards Phoenix, and Tempe, praying the fuel held out for a few more miles. Diane saw a place she had recognized from her car trips to see her sons and ordered Appleton to set it down. Low fuel light had begun beeping in earnest about 20 miles back. They had stretched the fuel as much as they could by dismounting the side guns and dropping the non-essential backup gear packs left in New Mexico. 2 years ago, Diane would have panicked at dropping something out of a moving vehicle, but now it was a miracle if it actually hit a live person. They were finally close, closer than she'd been to her boys in over a year. As the helicopter landed with a thud in the parking lot of the Salt River landfill, on the Beeline Highway I-87 about 15 miles from Tempe, the rotors slowly dying. Diane Singleton eased her control of the pilot's mind. She planted the suggestion into his mind to wait in the cockpit for an hour, then get out and head south forever. Captain Appleton turned his head like a marionette and announced, "I'll stay here and wait for the extraction." "Copy, Captain. Could you hand me your comm, please?" Diane asked. He pulled it off his wrist and handed it over with a smile. She handed the unit to Logan. "Feel like making this a pancake for me?" Logan looked up from his tablet, smiled, reached out with his power slowly crushing the device in between two invisible walls. It hissed and cracked, and the smoke came billowing out of the battery pack. Logan used his power to throw it across the parking lot where a small fire erupted from the debris. "Safety first," Diane said. Logan smiled as he handed the tablet Matt had given him to Diane. She swung her pack around, front stuffing the tablet down. "Ready to go?" Logan reached to grab his pack and said the only consistent word he spoke, "Ready." Diane felt it was odd now when he spoke aloud, even more so when he used his tablet, but years of speech therapy makes for some automatic behaviors. But also, given how taxed she was from the flight, she wasn't sure she could handle extra intrusion at the moment. Diane took Logan's hand and grabbed the door latch, sliding the door off to the side. She stepped down to the lift step and onto the asphalt. She helped Logan step down and out, then Matt, followed by Brendan. "Lovely place you found, my dear, but I feel a little high on the maintenance and small chef's kiss," Matt says sarcastically as he brings his fingers to his mouth. "Think of all the space your stuff, where all the garbage," as she wraps her arms around her husband's neck, leaning in for a kiss. Matt wraps his arms around his wife, leading into the kiss, a momentary respite despite the world. "Ugh, PDA, guys, PDA," Brendan says in childlike disgust. Logan laughs and begins puckering his lips as he types on his tablet. Moments later, the voice says, "Kissy, kissy, face, face." They break off the kiss, looking straight, and say in unison, "You're next, little man," as they make kissing faces and begin to move toward the boys. They rush towards Logan and begin to tickle him and kiss his forehead, his giggles filling the night air with joyous sound. For a moment, they are just a family doing family things. For now, they were safe in the moment, unaware of what was coming, unfocused on what has happened, to pause, to just be. Tempe was calling, Diane's boys were close, and she was going to find them and ensure no one else was lost in this unforgiving world where they found themselves. They checked their limited supplies, knowing the desert heat would be unforgiving. A few bottles of water, and at a walking pace, it would be several hours, if not a day, in the heat. It was going to be close. Diane checked the helicopter one last time, finding a small pack of MREs tucked in the space behind the co-pilot's chair. She tossed two on the ground and entered Appleton's mind for the last time. Two for the road. Thanks for the ride. The Singletons moved southwestward with a kind of quiet determination. Arizona stretched before them, wide and unforgiving in the desert floor, its desert floor shimmering in the heat as if daring them to keep going. Sky carried the heavy stillness you'd only notice in places where shade is scarce. Dust clung to their clothes, settling into every crease, a reminder of how far they'd come and how far they still had to go. Crossing into new land always feels different. It isn't just geography, it's the weight of possibility pressing against uncertainty. They didn't speak much on the road, each family member lost in their own thoughts, though every so often one would glance at the horizon as if expecting the earth itself to offer a sign of what waited ahead. Arizona was no sanctuary, but there was hope threaded through its silence, a thin, stubborn hope that maybe the struggle wouldn't feel so endless. The baking heat of the day, then the chilly night all meshing together, but the hope that they will all be together kept them focused. Passing a road sign that read Tempe 2 miles, Matt looked at Diane and began to think to her, we're almost there. Matt looked at his family, grateful that they were alive, a small pang of grief for the loss of his daughter and son-in-law. Not yet, he thinks to himself. The search for Diane's voice was about to begin. They entered Tempe through a gauntlet of half-buried traffic lights, the desert's golden fingers already struggling what man had built. Dunes had formed against the storefronts like snowdrifts, some tall enough to reach second-story windows. The sun beat against abandoned cars, their paint blistered and peeling, arranged like tombstones across the asphalt. Diane's hands trembled slightly as she pulled the dog-eared atlas from her pack. Well over a year without seeing her boys. Over a year wondering if they were alive or dead. Street signs scoured by sandstorms until the letters were barely legible. Read South Rural. I am going to butcher this word because apparently I can't speak tonight. Read South Rural Road and East Warner Road. She traced the intersection with a dirt-crusted fingernail, following the grid to Tempe Park Place Apartments just south of US 60. Her heart quickened. We're close, she whispered, her voice catching, a few miles that way. She looked at her family's sunburned faces, their eyes hollow with exhaustion, and added, if we hurry, we can be there before daylight evaporates. Matt's stomach clenched. He wanted to run to those apartments to give Diane this reunion, but reality pressed down on him like the Arizona heat. We need to scavenge first. We don't know if they're there for sure yet. Not yet, he said, hating himself for the disappointment that flashed across her face. We have nothing left, not even water. Diane sighed and said, you're right. A pit stop won't hurt. Not now. Even as she said it, her anxiety spiked, but that offhand remark about them not being there cut her like a knife. Matt's voice cracked from thirst. Bubba, keep your eyes peeled for locked buildings. Anything fortified might still have supplies. Brendan's sunburned face tightened. You do realize that I've been doing this for more than a week, right? The words came out sharper than sandpaper, fatigue etching lines around his eyes that shouldn't be there on someone so young. A vivid image sliced through Matt's consciousness, a concrete bunker of a building 50 yards ahead, its windows strangled by rusted burglar bars and metal roller doors pulled down like armored eyelids. Logan's gift via Diane's powers, precise as always. Thanks, Stinky, Matt whispered, ruffling his youngest son's hair as the boy's cracked lips curved upward. The sun hammered them as they approached Fred's C-store. Its faded sign hanging by a single bolt, the structure stood defiant against the apocalypse, though a sedan had been hurled against the front roller door, its chassis warped into the metal like a grotesque sculpture. Matt unshouldered his appropriated rifle, the warm metal slick against his palm. He motioned sharply for his family to press themselves against the wall, then crept along the building's perimeter, each footfall calculated. His heart thudded in his ears. Feel anything? He projected to Diane. The thought words tinged with anxiety. Nothing, came her reply, cool water in his mind. At the building's edge, Matt breathed Matt's breathing slowed. He gripped his rifle against his chest, muscles coiling. In one fluid motion, he swung around the corner, weapon trained on the empty space, finger hovering near the trigger. Sweat trickled between his shoulder blades as he scanned the alley. Nothing but wind-sculpted trash and shadows. The rear door bore violent testimony to attempted breaches. Deep gouges in the metal, the frame dented but miraculously intact. Matt circled the building, checking the final corner with the same predatory caution before returning to his family, who huddled against the sun-baked car. We may have gotten, we may have just gotten very lucky, Matt said, his voice thick with desperate hope. Diane's eyes, bright against the dust-streaked face, met his. We could use some good luck. Bubba, I'll need your help with the back door. Matt's gaze lingered on his son's gaunt face. Let's see if we can rustle up some supplies. I could use some spam, Brendan said, a ghost of his old humor flickering. Matt's laugh was dry as the desert around them. Right about now, I'd take a rat. Raw. Matt nodded toward the rusted steel door. Bubba, work your magic on that lock. Brendan's eyes narrowed in concentration as he extended his palm. The air around the door handle shimmered like highway heat, the metal glowing orange-red before slumping into a molten rivulets that dripped to the dusty concrete. The door swung inward with a metallic groan, its hinges fighting against the warped frame. They entered the stockroom, Matt leading with his rifle pressed against his shoulder, its weight familiar as an old friend. Their flashlight beams cut yellow swaths through the darkness, dancing across shelves still stocked with dented cans and faded boxes. Dust motes swirled in the light like microscopic galaxies. To their left stood a door with peeling gray paint and an employees only sign hanging askew from a single screw. Matt's beam swept right, illuminating another doorway where a desiccated corpse slumped against its frame. Its leathery skin stretched tight over bone, empty eye sockets staring into nothing. The smell hit Matt like a physical blow, sweet sour putrefaction that coated his tongue and crawled down his throat. His stomach clenched and saliva flooded his mouth. He swallowed hard twice, remembering the bloated corpses they'd found in many houses so far. This was fresher somehow, worse. His hands trembled slightly as he aimed his flashlight at the final door. A small, grimy window punctuated its center, the kind meant for employees to peer through before pushing, preventing collisions with customers on the other side. Matt's beam caught something dark smeared across the glass, already turning brown at the edges. Matt raised his fist, signaling Brendan to stay put, then pressed his face to the grimy window. He squinted, allowing his vision to adjust to the murky interior. The beam of his flashlight swept across well-stocked shelves and a glass-encased counter area, briefly illuminating several ceiling-mounted security mirrors. Easing the door open just enough to slip through, Matt felt the latch click shut behind him. Diane's voice bloomed in his consciousness. Logan's getting restless out here. All clear, or should we wait? Back room only, Matt projected. Fair warning, the smell's pretty bad. When isn't it? These days, came her wry response. Matt couldn't help himself. You never are, he thought, conjuring the memory of Diane stepping from the shower, water beating on her skin. Focus on the task at hand, old man, she chided, though she caught the warmth beneath her rebuke. Can I help you, sir? May I assist you? Yes, I love you too. I will be there to play with you in a minute. We're gonna have to wait. We're gonna have to wait. We're gonna have to wait. I'm so sorry. You're gonna have to wait. Love you. Sneaky dog. Matt crept down the back aisle, his boots silent against the gritty linoleum, rifle sweeping methodically from corner to corner, his boots whisper across the floor, each step releasing tiny clouds of dust and sand that had blown in through the broken seals around the doors. He approached the counter in a half crouch, muscles tense, expecting some horror to lunge at him from the shadows. Nothing came. A set of keys glinted on the register, their metal surfaces dulled by the film of dust but still visible in the weak light. He stretched his arm over the scratched glass counter, fingertips brushing cool metal before closing around the jangling ring. The counter's edge pressed into his ribs as he leaned in. At the end of the display case, he found a heavy padlock securing a metal gate. He worked through the keys one by one, the third sliding into the mechanism with a satisfying precision. The lock released with a sharp click that seemed thunderous in the stillness. Behind the counter, his flashlight revealed three firearms, a shotgun with a worn wooden stock, two handguns, their barrels reflecting dull lights, secured in a rack beneath a faded no ID, no sale sign. Matt whistles low. Must have been a rough neighborhood, he mutters, eyeing the weapons. He turns toward the back room and calls out, "All clear." Stockroom door bursts open as Logan bolts through, making a beeline for his father. The boy halts at the interior doorway, his face pinching with frustration at the obstacle. With a subtle twitch of his head, he sends the door crashing against the wall. Cigarette packs tumble from their display, scattering across the floor. Logan launches himself the final few steps, colliding with Matt in a desperate embrace. His fingers find the tablet at his hip, tapping with, tapping with practiced precision. Ooh my god. Been talking too long. "I missed you," announces the electronic voice. Matt squeezes him tighter. "Missed you too, Stinky. But maybe ease up on the telekinesis around the merchandise, okay?" Logan steps back and looks around on the floor at the now smashed stuff from his impatience. Taps on the tablet again. "Sorry," announces the voice. Diane steps into the doorway, relief softening the lines around her eyes. "At least he didn't destroy anything essential," she says, surveying the scattered cigarette packs. "Let's be quick about this. I need to find my boys." Matt nods, sweeping his flashlight across the weapons cache. 20 minutes, no more. I'll check for ammunition while I'm at it. He taps the gun rack with his knuckle. Either this place was in a war zone or someone had serious trust issues. Matt and his family stuff their packs with canned goods, batteries, and ammunition. They gulp down the lukewarm water from plastic bottles, liquid catching in their dry throats. They exited the building and began to trek towards US 60. As they loaded the packs on their back, Matt's gaze drifted northward along US 60, toward the apartment complex where Diane's boys, Maddie, Seth, and David, might still be waiting, might still be breathing. The family fell into old patterns, especially in a cityscape. Diane scanning the area for hostile thoughts in close proximity, Brendan at the ready, Logan in the middle, and Matt taking up the rear position. Family going into protective formation, honed for over a year since they left the safety of their home. Each member vigilant but calm, focused on survival. The sound of gunfire somewhere in the city echoing off the mostly empty buildings made everyone a little jumpy. Diane stretched out her mind and tried to judge the distance of the mile behind the noise, feeling it very far away from where they were. Not close, she relays to her family. They pressed forward, edging closer and closer to the goal. The first few hours in a foreign city are always a mix of caution and hope. And that is all for tonight. If you are enjoying this, please go buy the book. Yes, it is not perfect. Yes, it has errors that I am just now catching, even though I edited it for 5 months. You would think at some point I would have caught it, but when you're doing it by yourself, you kind of get stuck with doing things. But I appreciate everything. And I am thankful for everybody who came and watched. And those of you that watch it on replay, I'll appreciate that as well. This will probably be the last reading. So you'll have to read the book to figure out the ending. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Everybody have a good night. Thank you for watching.